Of all the different aspects of life on which dementia has an impact, arguably the most devastating is communication. We could even say that dementia is a sort of communication disease. If communication wasn't damaged as a result of dementia, many of the other effects it has would be much easier to manage. We communicate all the time, when we're happy, excited, fascinated, intrigued or eager, when we're feeling amorous, affectionate or moved by something. We communicate about it. If we're sad, confused, worried or angry, we tend to let other people know by communicating. A person with dementia still has all those feelings. And because dementia is such a challenging and frightening disease, they're likely to have more than their fair share of sadness, confusion, worry and anger. But the disease makes it more difficult to tell others about those feelings, and that in turn can make the feelings worse. Just when they need to communicate their needs more, they find they can't. They might need a bit more explanation of something, want to ask something, or just need a hug. Things like that can be difficult to ask for at the best of times, but dementia takes away some of the tools we use for communication, and that makes it even harder. We've all been in situations where, because we haven't said anything, people have assumed we didn't have an opinion or any particular wishes, but we did. Not communicating about an idea or feeling doesn't mean it's not there. There's a risk that a person with dementia will get discouraged from trying to communicate, and that means their needs, wants and opinions are easy to overlook. That's why it's important to find ways to keep the communication working, even when it's difficult. Even if only one person in the room has dementia, everyone is affected by this communication disease. It affects family members, friends, professional carers, and all the many people we come into contact with day by day. The hairdresser, the dentist, the man in the post office, the woman at the supermarket checkout, the plumber, the postman, the taxi driver. Everyone is vulnerable. It affects how they communicate and can make them feel insecure and frustrated too. That's because communication is a two-way process. We exchange information and express our feelings and thoughts to each other. We're all in it together. Like any disease, a communication disease needs to be treated. And the good news is that because communication is so vital to us, so central to our lives, people are generally very committed to helping make it work as well as it can. Humans can be very creative when it comes to communicating, and often we just need to feel confident enough to try things out and recognise that not everything will work perfectly every time. Letting a bit of humour into the situation can help. So can finding the process interesting, making it a project to figure out how to overcome a difficulty or get messages to and fro effectively. We can get a long way if we approach the situation with kindness and patience. That way, the person with dementia doesn't feel as if they're being blamed for the problem. It's important to avoid getting into a competition for who gets heard and who has to keep quiet. Everyone needs space to express their ideas and feelings. It also helps if we understand the basic types of problem at the heart of this communication disease. One is how dementia changes a person's ability to communicate with ease. The other is how the people they communicate with can unintentionally make things worse. Let's look at each in turn. Dementia is caused by damage to the brain. The damage leads to two common problems. Firstly, The pathways in the brain for finding and linking up words and meanings aren't able to run as effectively. One consequence of that is that the person with dementia will find it difficult to keep up when someone talks to them. They need a little more time than they did before. Another consequence is that the person with dementia may not be able to find the words they need and may have to search around for other words to use instead, even if they're not the most accurate ones. As a result, the person they're talking to may have to do some guessing to figure out what meaning was intended. The second common problem caused by the brain damage is that the pathways used for storing information don't work as effectively. This means that recent events may not get recorded in memory. That's a problem because the vast majority of what we communicate about relates to the recent past. What we say now depends on remembering what we said last and what the other person just said. Even when we're discussing what we'll do later, it only makes sense if both of us know what we've already done. So if we don't share the same memories about what's happened recently, it takes no time at all for confusion to arise. But the brain damage itself is only part of why the communication disease is such a problem. Communication is very tied up with how we think and feel. And that's the reason why, when we're talking to a person with dementia, we can end up making things worse for them.